Here's a video for notes 8-1, which is dot plots and histograms. So in this lesson, we learned how to make dot plots and histograms, but also how to read dot plots and histograms. So how we make a dot plot, you're going to make a number line starting with the minimum of your data set and ending with the maximum of your data set. Then you're going to draw a dot over the number for each corresponding data value. Then we're going to label below our number line with units and give our dot plot a title. So let's take a look at an example. So in class, I had everyone write down the number of siblings they have, and we're going to use that data to construct a dot plot of the data. So here are the responses, and as we can see, our minimum value is 0 and our maximum value is 13. So now we're going to make a dot plot. So first thing we need to do is we need to draw a number line, and we're going to start with the minimum, which is 0, and we're going to go all the way up to 13. Okay, now we're going to draw a dot over the number for each corresponding data value. All right, so I'm going to start with, what I like to do is start with 0 and then kind of go from there. So 0, there's 1. 1, I see 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 dots. Okay, so I'm going to continue this, and then we'll have a completed dot plot. All right, so here's our completed dot plot. So there's basically a dot over each number for however many numbers there were. All right, so now it says label your number, or label below your number line with units. So these numbers at the bottom represent the number of siblings. And then we're going to give the graph a title. So I'm going to say number of siblings in Miss Okita's class. So from this data set, we can see, for instance, we can see that only one student had 0 siblings. We can see that 4 students had above 7 siblings. So from this data, from the graph, we can easily answer questions more so than by looking at the data when it's unorganized. All right, so now let's talk about how to read dot plots. So we have this example. It says, Mr. Martinez asked all of his students how many hours they slept last night. Below is a dot plot representing their answers. Answer all of the questions. So the first question is, how many students are in Mr. Martinez's class? So each dot here represents a student, and if we were to count those up, that would be 29 students. Next question says, how many students slept 9 hours? So here's 9 hours. So if we count the dots, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 students. Then it says how many students slept less than 7 hours. So less than 7 hours would be 6 and 5. So that's 2 students. And then lastly, how many students slept at least 10 hours? So at least 10 would be 10 and above. So that's going to be 7 students. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to make a histogram. So a histogram is a different type of graph you can make for quantitative data or data that's numbers. So first thing we need to do is you have to put the data in order from smallest to largest. Then you're going to determine what's called your bin size. So the bin size is the category how you're going to categorize your numbers. So generally you want at least 5 bins for your data set. So based off of that, that's how you can determine what your bin size is. A bin is a range of data included on one bar of your histogram. Then we're going to make a frequency distribution using your data values in your bins. We're going to draw and label our X and Y axis, then create our histogram using our frequency distribution, and then give the histogram a title. So for this particular example, I had you estimate a minute in class. So basically you close your eyes, you counted a minute, and then you open your eyes to see how much time had actually passed. So the minimum amount of time that had passed was 32 seconds and the maximum was 90. So based off that data, I decided to make bin sizes of 10. So as you can see, I've actually already sorted this. So this bin size is 10. It goes from 30 to 39. and then from 40 to 49, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, etc. So we end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bins. And then as we can see, there was 1 student in the first range, 1 student in the second range, 2 in the third, 8 in the fourth, 6 in the fifth, etc., etc. So this is what we're going to use to make a histogram. Okay, so we've done steps 1 and step 2 and step 3. So now we're going to draw and label our X and Y axis. So our y-axis is going to be the frequency or the number of students. And as we can see from our data, the highest that goes is 8. So that's how high this needs to go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then in terms of our x-axis, this is going to be number of seconds. And that's basically going to need to go from 30 to 99 or 30 to 100. So it's going to start at 30 to 40 is the first bin. And then we have 40 to 50, that's the second bin, 50 to 60, 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90. And then our last bin is 90 to 99, so we can go to 100 here. Okay, so now basically the first bar is going to be 1 unit high, and that represents the 1 student who is between 30 and 39. Same thing with the second bin. That represents the 1 student who is between 40 and 49. Then we have 2 students between 50 and 59, so I'm going to go up to 2. Then we have 8 students in the next bin. And then we have 6 students, 4 students, and then we have 1 student in the last bin. Okay, so keep in mind, these were individual data points. Like for instance, I think the minimum value was actually 32. So in a histogram, we can't see what the individual numbers are. We can just see where they are in terms of a range, but we can see the overall shape of the distribution. Lastly, we need to do is we did label our X and Y axis, but we need to give it a title. And remember, this data was estimating a minute, so I'm going to call this estimating a minute. All right, so now let's talk about how to read histograms. So it says Lorenzo's doing research on black cherry trees. So he measures the heights of all black cherry trees in an orchard. Use a histogram to answer the following questions. So first of all, when analyzing histogram, it's a good idea to basically write out how tall each bar is. So the first bar is 3 units. Second is 3. Then we have 8. Then we have 10. Then we have 5. And then we have 2. And then we're going to use that information to answer the question. So it says, how many trees are there in the orchard? So to answer that, we need to add these all together. So it's going to be 3 plus 3 plus 8 plus 10 plus 5 plus 2. So that's going to be 31 trees. Now it says, how many trees are taller than 80 feet? So here's 80. So taller than 80 would be 5 plus 2, which is 7 trees. How many trees are between 65 and 75? So 65 and 75 would be these 2 bars. So that's going to be 3 plus 8, which is 11 trees. And then lastly, how many trees are less than 70 feet tall? So 70 would just be here. Less than would be the first 2 bars. So it would be 3 plus 3, which is 6 trees.